Welcome to day 197 of the 300 Movie Challenge. Today we watched the highest grossing film of October 2010, which was The Social Network, aka White People.
Um, I guess to preface this, when we were watching the movie and everything, I was like, man, Mark Zuckerberg was really mean and everything. I was like in a total jerk.
No. Okay, so I don't.
But then, yeah, I read the Wikipedia thing, and it turns out that it actually fictionalized like a big portion of a bunch of events and stuff.
Yeah, so I don't know like exactly how accurate it is. Like I did look on Wikipedia. There was like it basically said that people were saying there were some like dramatizations, but they never really said like what they were.
Yeah.
So
I'm not sure, like...
Yeah, because it makes me think that it probably honestly is fairly accurate, because if it like there was like a noticeable inaccuracy, they would have been like, oh yeah, this thing is wrong, right? But they never gave any specifics, so it was like, huh, interesting. Again,
the only funny part that I found was that Mark Zuckerberg was like, the one thing... Well, first off, he was like, I didn't expect there to be a movie made of me while I was alive.
Yeah.
And it's like, he mentioned that the one thing that the movie apparently nailed, like, straight on, was his wardrobe. Because he was like, I had, like, each of those flannels and shirts.
His wardrobe?
Yeah, that was apparently the one thing that he said that they nailed down and stuff, and he disliked the movie and everything because of the...
Well, that makes sense. It makes him look like a bad person. Well, that's the thing, though. Like, everyone's kind of shitty.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, you know... Well, here's the thing. I'm thinking it's kind of a like, lens into, like... Well, like how Vi said with, like, white people. It's more specific than that. It's more like the entitled white people kind of, like... aspect. It reminds me of, and it's not quite to this degree, but it reminds me of, like, again, dating when we were recording this, the Brett Kavanaugh stuff, and about how, like, his like, you know, elitist club of white people going around kind of doing dickish things for, like, just because they can. You know what I mean? It's like, it kind of reminds me, it obviously not nearly as bad as what he did, but, you know, same kind of mindset at least.
It is kind of weird,
especially in the beginning of the movie where he wanted to get into the elite club, and then he did the whole thing with the face smash and everything.
Yeah, and
it's so weird. It's like so foreign because, like, I'm not white, and then it's just like
that makes both of us. Yeah.
White people actually do this? It's kind of like one of those things where I'm just like, is it a cultural difference? Is it just like one of those things where it's only like a certain group within this certain chasm of society where it's like...
I mean, it's the whole... it's the frat boy kind of mentality, in a sense.
Yeah.
It's so foreign to me. I'm just like, do
people
really do this?
I mean, they do, but again, to what degree and that kind of stuff, I can't tell you. I mean, I know this kind of stuff happens. I've never participated. I don't want to participate. But
I kind of agree with Valen that it's more of just like, it's not a in total white people thing. It's a certain mentality.
Yeah, I know it's not, but whenever I see it portrayed in media, it just seems a lot more than it actually probably is, because it's so focused on, like, you have all these college movies about frat people, you have all of these, like, articles about frat people. It's just like,
yeah, and it's just, I don't know. It's how do I explain this? This movie as a story is an interesting story to see who does what kind of thing, and, like, you know, how things evolve, and it does that in an interesting way because usually for a movie where kind of like every character kind of is not that great of a person, because this has happened in previous movies, we kind of like can't get into the story because of that. But I kind of was interested in this story, so I'm like, I want to know like why this, but not like Pulp Fiction, for example.
It was super hard because like I could see that this like the story it was trying to tell was pretty interesting, but I was so put off by how like
Yeah, I was put off by the characters and
like
especially
Dick's
the main guy.
See, I was, but I don't know. It like somehow in my mind I could kind of just like get past it in a sense of like I know I'm not like identifying with the characters, but I'm witnessing this as like an outside observer just trying to see what happens. And
I guess here's kind of a like a certain take on it. It's like this maybe it hits too close to home because it's modern and it's like it surrounds like technology and stuff. But The Great Gatsby is also a story where a lot of the characters are not very likable. They're very flawed and they do shitty things. But I guess because like it took place during the 20s, so it's foreign enough to me to become interested in it rather than become really depressed by it because it goes
Yeah, because you remember modern like,
college stuff because like I just left college like not too long ago and I'm just like yeah, my school was like kind of it was a big school, so it was like partially a party school, and I'm sure this kind of stuff happened, but it's just so depressing to me. I just can't like follow that kind of story, but I can follow The Great Gatsby because it's like old, it has a certain foreign feel to it, and I guess like the weird thing with I had mentioned how the frat thing was so foreign to me, but I guess that the thing with that is that it's foreign, but it's also really depressing, as opposed to being foreign and like kind of interesting and historical.
I can agree with that too. Where it's kind of like, from a historical aspect, there were a lot of like really horrible things, but you can kind of look at it and be like, okay, well things have thankfully improved since then, and sometimes not, but most of the time, depending on the event and stuff, people have like learned and stuff. Like, for example, child labor is not a thing in the United States and stuff anymore, and whatnot. But I kind of agree that it's kind of like when you look at this movie and then you kind of think of like other articles or other events and stuff that are going on, and you're just like, right, this stuff is still happening. Like, it's not like anything got resolved after this and stuff.
I can definitely see like why people would be interested in like the story behind Facebook, because I mean it is kind of like it's part of the internet sphere, and a lot of people do participate in it, and even if you don't participate in it, then you still know what it is.
Yeah.
It's like Google. So
I think for me, the reason why I can kind of get past that whole thing with the characters is that, to me, it's very clear in how the movie's presented that you're not supposed to sympathize with them.
right.
So I think that's the thing that really gets me, is when, like, here's a character's doing all the wrong things, but oh, look, they're just misunderstood, you're supposed to like them, and, like, that is what really gets me, right? And I feel
That
like
makes sense,
they
too.
really didn't do that at all. It was just like,
Oh, no,
here's what happened, you know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
I ended up, like, again, I know I saw this in theaters when it came out, but again, I was like 15, so I didn't exactly, well,
Yeah, did you
16.
remember much of it? Actually?
I remembered bits and pieces, like, but very little of it overall. And I you know, I knew there was something involving like suing or whatever, but I didn't know any details. And so I kind of was watching this, and I'm like, I don't remember realizing how terrible these people are when I first watched it. So
That makes sense.
yeah, so it was interesting from that perspective. But yeah, it was one of those things where I actually liked this kind of a decent amount. Well, actually, honestly, more than a decent amount. But I can understand completely your idea of just like, this just is something that I don't want to have to experience in terms of character
'cause-
decisions. So
Oh my god, like all the party scenes and stuff, I was just like,
yeah, no, okay, that's the thing that
eh.
actually kind of bothered me. Like, okay, it's a double-edged thing here. Is the soundtrack.
Yeah.
So
Trap was weird.
I kind of like the weird aspect of the soundtrack because it creates this weird kind of atmosphere, and there's just kind of weird stuff involved. The problem is that a lot of the times it's way too loud,
Yeah,
and you can't
really
hear what they're
the
talking.
characters.
Yeah,
People were very quiet in this movie.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what are they saying?
Yeah, so it's like the soundtrack. It is weird, and it has some kind of weird tones. But again, I kind of liked that. It's just kind of, it makes it feel like kind of different and strange. But yeah, it was just too loud in multiple spots where you really could not tell what they were saying. There's that one, well, like the one part where, for example, Mark Zuckerberg and I forgot the guy's name.
Is it when they're in like the club thing?
Yeah,
and they're on the second story.
Yeah, the Napster guy, and they're in this club, and the music's really loud, and they're talking to each other, and you could think, okay, I mean, is that realistic? Sure, but like they're talking about like actual important things you're supposed to know for the story, and you could just barely hear them, and it's like,
yeah,
could you have toned the realism down just a tad for this?
Realism is not important if it's getting in the way of the context.
It reminds me of
story.
This is so obscure, but I always like to bring this up when I'm talking about realism and how it's not always a good thing. The first time I ever played a Call of Duty game at a friend's house, he was like, telling me how the buttons do or whatever, and then he was like, oh yeah, and if you like, use this to hold the scope in place, then you can like press this and you'll hold your breath and your shot will be steadier.
What?
And I'm like, why is this mechanic in this game? Like, is that more realistic? Sure, but why the fuck do I have to do an extra button press to make it easier to just let me shoot the fucking gun? Like, come on. It's just like shit like that that's so unnecessary, and like, why is that a thing? So yeah, it's kind of a double-edged thing in that regard.
You could hold your breath in Call of Duty?
Whatever. I don't care. But
okay.
So
whether or not that mechanic is still there, we don't know.
I don't know. I don't remember which Call of Duty game it was or whatever. But anyway, this actually probably would have been around the same time, 2010-ish. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. For some reason, I still like got invested in the story, and I ended up liking this quite a bit. But I definitely can see, again, like I just said before, if the characters just kind of push you away from it. But to me, it was portrayed in a way where it was like, yeah, we know that these weren't good decisions. We're just telling you the objective, well, quote-unquote objective, because we don't really know, story. Yeah. But the thing that like really makes me think about it now is because, there's been a bunch of news about Facebook with like, more recently, mostly involving, well, it's twofold. One is privacy and data security, and the other is news.
Yeah.
Right? And that kind of relegation. And, like, there's ideas of making some sort of social media platforms, like, public utilities and regulating them as such. So you get, like, the whole, you get protection basically from the government, and, like, that also guarantees free speech, but within, the laws of hate speech and shit like that, right? And so there's... it's stuff like that that's, like, interesting to kind of think about, also knowing this context, where it's like, Zuckerberg has control over Facebook, which is, honestly, outside of Google, possibly the most influential website, there is. Mm-hmm. Especially, Google, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter are kind of like the ones that, people use to get information and give information.
As well as like keep in touch with people.
Right, yeah. So that's that own... Yeah, but I'm thinking in terms of like global scales here, right? So, for example, there's talks about like remember back, I don't know, a few years ago, there were all these like kind of uprisings in like the Middle East and Africa.
Oh yeah.
And
Facebook
it was
and social media.
Yeah, and they use social media to coordinate those, and like there's things I think in Israel a bit ago that they were using for that and things like that, and it's just like
that was also how they did like the stuff with Standing Rock and like the stuff in Ferguson and stuff.
Yeah, and and then also as well there's, I mean, I don't know if they're doing this on, they're probably doing this on Facebook, but there's still also white supremacists kind of doing similar things as well. So it's on both sides, right? But so it just makes me think that, like, again, I still don't know 100% exactly if this character portrayal is accurate in this movie, but it makes me think, like, is it really a good idea to have this kind of person in control of that?
This website,
you know what I mean? It's because he's not that great of a person. He's kind of like, well, especially how the movie portrays him as like, kind of, what's the word? Like, incel-y? Nice guy. You know what I mean? That was the thing in the beginning of the movie, right?
Yeah.
And I'd seen that quote before, but I forgot it was in this movie. The whole thing, like, you're gonna think that girls don't like you because you're a nerd. No, they don't like you because you're an asshole. You know what I mean? It's like that kind of mentality, which is already a huge problem online with people acting like that. You know, is that mentality actually accurate with the person? Is that still what's going on? I don't know, because from my own experience, I would honestly say, like, probably kind of in high school, I kind of was, like, teetering on the edge of that mindset for a little bit, and, like, I've, you know, pulled away from that, but it does make me think, like, you know, it makes me worry a little bit.
It is something that like, people try to learn, and maybe with time, since this is, like, when he was in college, so he was still kind of stupid, so maybe he matured out of that. That's the only thing we can hope for, if that was an accurate portrayal of how he was as a college student. So we can only hope.
Yeah, it's also weird to think that, I'm gonna estimate here, he's, like, really not that much older than us.
No.
Because okay, let's assume he's 20 in 2004. Right?
Yeah.
That means was born in 84. I mean, I guess we could look this up, but let's just estimate this. So, well, let's do the math easy. Let's say 83, which makes it so that...
Do you want me to look up his actual birth year?
Is he 35?
Let me see.
34? 35?
He can run for president.
Oh boy, that's what we need.
That's exactly.
We already have a...
Yeah, he's 1984.
Okay, so he's 34? 33?
34, yeah.
Okay. So,
Oh my
no
God,
president
yeah.
yet, but... I mean, he could in 2020. That's not happening.
No.
But, yeah, I don't know. It just makes you think about this kind of stuff and how we treat... It's this whole idea of, like, having private entities controlled by singular people that basically allow for global information distribution.
Yeah.
That's, you know what I mean? That's inherently a problem. Even if Zuckerberg was, like, a totally, you know, the perfect kind of person, it's still in the whim of one person. You know what I mean? Isn't that the whole point of, like, a lot of government stuff is you're trying to power away from singular people, right? So, I don't know. It's just interesting stuff to think about, and this movie kind of made me think about that more. So, anyway.
No, I think that's a pretty good point and stuff, especially since probably when Zuckerberg when we saw and stuff, he probably would have had no idea, like, how big it was actually going to become and stuff.
Well, that was the whole point originally, is the whole exclusivity, where it was just for, you know, the Ivy League schools or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And now it's, like, literally everybody. Actually, let's see, how many Facebook accounts are there? How many Facebook users?
Probably millions or billions.
2.23 billion.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
So that's like a third of the world? More than that. No, less than that.
Oh, less? Yeah, wait, yeah. Because we're
It's
still
about-
at 7-something billion, right?
Okay, it's about 30%.
Okay.
But still,
That's
that's a
A
shitload.
lot of people that live on this earth.
Yeah. Considering, I think, like, you know, the percent of people who have, like, actual toilets is probably about the same. To be honest. So, yeah. Actually, let me look that up, too, just so I don't just say random shit.
I guess the other thing, too, is that some of those accounts might also just be business accounts, too.
Yeah, they could also...
No, well, it said monthly active users was that number.
Oh, never mind.
Oh.
Okay, percentage of world population with indoor plumbing. No, not Roto-Rooter. Oh my god. Okay. Okay, it's the other. Okay. So it's about, okay. So about 30% of the world has a Facebook account. About 30% of the world does not have indoor plumbing. Okay, so I got it reversed. But anyway.
Oh.
So anyway, still, that's it's weird to think about that's the kind of influence that it has. So, and you know, like people, like I know a lot of I teach high school. They don't have Facebook accounts. They use like Snapchat and Instagram and stuff, which as websites I find to be even worse, honestly, in terms of usability, but whatever. I mean, I've heard a lot of talk about people saying, you know, to move away from Facebook, to, you know, get rid of their user base because of stuff they disagree with, and I like the idea of that, but I also don't really think there's a viable alternative. So, I don't know. It's stuff to think about.
It's a weird situation.
Yeah. So, well...
And then there's me who never had a Facebook.
Oh,
account.
yeah.
I guess with that, I got a lot of smack for not having a Facebook account for the longest time. Which was for my own personal reasons, that I didn't make a Facebook account and everything.
Yeah.
And then, now it's kind of just... I guess the really hilarious part was, I was at a wedding, and I was talking to some... There was, the bride's brother and the bride's mom, and we were just, like, having a conversation, and we were exchanging, like, contact info. He was like, oh, so what's your Facebook account? And I was like, oh, I don't have a Facebook account. He's like, what, really? And then the mom was like, yeah, who uses Facebook anymore? And it turned out that he was one of the, I think he was in Berkeley when Facebook first came out, so he was like one of the first users and stuff.
Oh, that's pretty neat.
Yeah, but he was like, no one has a Facebook anymore, and then he was like, I feel old.
No, people definitely still have them, but again, it's definitely,
Yeah.
in terms of like new people joining, the number is way lower. So
Yeah.
it's kind of weird because, like, let's see, I think I joined in 2008.
I think I did too, actually, which is interesting.
Yeah, so, and that was, well, I don't know in terms of timeline for this movie, like when the lawsuit was. Obviously, it'd have to be, you know, after like 2004, but I'm curious to see actually how that works in terms of like, you know, the I want to see if it says anywhere with it. Well, it does not. Well, okay. It says, it mentions at the end that, you know, the twins were in like the 2008 Beijing Olympics. So I guess it has to be before then.
Yeah.
Right.
So
That's true.
I don't know. I was just curious to, I'd be curious to see, like, of, you know, all of the Facebook, like, people, like, what number user I am in terms of, like, from the, you know, since it was formed or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably some, like, website that can tell you that.
I don't know. It'd be interesting to see, because I'm, again, 2008 would be pretty early. I mean, also, like, YouTube, I joined, like, really early.
Same.
Yeah, so there's so many things. Like, I think I have, at least on my personal YouTube channel, I think I have videos that are over 10 years old. Which you, like, never see. So, but anyway.
I remember, like, the really old, like, layout of YouTube, too.
Yeah.
It was so ugly.
Yeah, it was pretty
I remember YouTube from before Google bought it, too.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, like, Maintenance Fridays and stuff. I remember that.
And they had, you had to, you know, rate videos by, like, stars.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
So, yeah, that was the thing. But, anyway. I'm actually looking at my stuff and see.
To see how old it is.
I don't even know. What was even the first thing on here? Oh, right, that. 11 years ago.
Years. Nice.
Wow. So, yeah, long time. Anyway. Facebook. So I guess, yeah, with this movie, it really comes down to, I guess, just how you feel involving the characters.
Yeah.
How much you like this.
Definitely.
If you can disconnect yourself from that, then it's a good story and it's told well, and you know, it's an interesting thing. So in that case, again, like me, I like this quite a bit, but if the character's just, you know, too much for you, then of course that pulls down. So
Yeah.
that's that, I guess.
It's your boat.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
next movie.
Oh yeah, the next movie.
Next
we
movie
go
is
Back to fantasy.
yeah. We're almost done with that series.
That's
weird.
I'm sad about that.
It's weird. Shit's weird. We're almost at number 200. That's weird.
That is true.
Oh yeah. Well, I guess we'll see.
Oh god. Oh,
Um,
we've done so much. We've wasted so much time in our lives.
Well.
Okay.
Okay. Well. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.